I'm Imogen Casebourne. I'm Director at Learning at EPIC. We're an e-learning, multi-device learning company, and we're based in Brighton, Rio de Janeiro, and New York. And we've been supporting learners with technology for over 25 years. So I'm here today to talk to you about compliance training, specifically how we can make it more powerful, persuasive, effective, and fun. So to start with, I'd like to draw your attention to the recent 2012 Towards Maturity Benchmark report. As they say, compliance training is often one of the first types of training to be e-enabled because you can track whether learners have completed the training using learning management systems. But the unfortunate fact is that of this mandatory, as in everyone must do it, as in really there are no exceptions, compliance training, only 63% of people are actually completing the training. So that's not 100%, that's 2/3 of learners are actually getting to the end of the compliance training. And that's without measuring the effectiveness of the training, measuring whether behaviour has changed back in the workplace. And let's face it, compliance training doesn't always have the best reputation. I was at an extended family gathering recently, and a now retired civil servant, on finding out what I did, told me with some satisfaction that he always clicked straight to the end of any e-learning course without looking at any of the content. And this was a man who was perfectly conscientious in all other areas of life and work. So what's going wrong? I think it's worth stepping back for a moment and taking a look at what we're actually trying to achieve with compliance training. Compliance training is actually all about influencing behaviour. It may be about maintaining a behaviour you want to see. It might be about changing a behaviour. But it's all about behaviour. And influencing behaviour isn't an easy thing to do. Now, these two guys up here are Charles D. Higg and B.F. Fogg, and they've both written books on the subject. Charles D. Higg's 2012 book, The Power of Habit, looks at people trying to change behaviours on an individual basis and in organisations. Now, he includes the fascinating anecdote of Paul O'Neill of the Alcoa Aluminium Company. In 1987, Paul O'Neill set out to make the Alcoa Aluminium Company the safest in the world. And bearing in mind that health and safety accidents involving molten aluminium are not things you'd probably want to be involved with, that was a pretty important goal. And he achieved that goal by building health and safety reporting into processes, by insisting that accidents and near misses were always reported right to the top, and by firing managers who didn't comply with this. Now, he also, into the bargain, made it far more profitable as he made it far safer. Now, I think we can all agree that taking an hour-long health and safety course is unlikely to have the sort of far-reaching effects that O'Neill achieved at Alcoa. However, learning technologies can help. Way back in 2003, B.F. Fogg wrote The Prescient Persuasive Technology about how we can use technology to change how people behave. And some of the things he talked about are just becoming possible now. So B.F. Fogg, who's a researcher, identified 3 aspects to behaviour change: ability, motivation, and triggers. So you need to be able to produce the behaviour, you need to want to do it, and you need triggers in your environment, perhaps processes, that will prompt you to behave in the required way. So in terms of ability, that's a pretty straightforward match for courses, be they face-to-face courses, blended courses, e-learning, multi-device, and mobile learning. Motivation, perhaps a tougher nut to crack with learning technologies, but there are ways, and I'll come back to that in a moment. And triggers may be reminders and sidekicks, and again, I'll come back to that in a moment. But if you know you've got an ability gap, you need a course. This is where e-learning, multi-device learning may well be exactly what you want. But there are still plenty of things that can go wrong. So I'd like to go through 5 things that can really turn learners off compliance training courses. I did this course last year, and the year before. It's so inflexible, it makes me feel they've no interest in me. Most of the course was irrelevant to me. The course was so boring. It felt like a waste of my valuable time. There's so much information that it's hard to remember and apply anything back in the workplace. So these are all things that you might hear learners say. So doing the same course every year. A lot of organisations require their staff to reaccredit every year, which is very laudable. Unfortunately, it's often with the very same course, the identical, perhaps slightly dated course, that they took a couple of years ago. And this is obviously going to be a turn-off. So far better to take an approach that we took recently with NHS South Central, and we're now working on with various financial organisations. Let people who are re-accrediting take a diagnostic. This doesn't just have to be a multiple choice test, it could be a scenario, and show what they know. If they pass, then you reduce the downtime, taking a course they don't need to take. And if they fail, they can be directed to topics that they actually do need to revisit because they didn't know. So the next learner turn-off is that it isn't flexible. We did some research with the NHS, and we found that a lot of people were having to come into the workplace, go into a classroom, just to take their compliance training. So they found it very inflexible. So what we did with the NHS, and which we're also doing with civil service learning, is to make the learning multi-device. So that means you could be sitting at your desk, taking a compliance course. You're nearly finished, but you need to go get your train. So you can leave, get your train, pick up the course on your mobile device. It remembers exactly where you were, and you can continue where you left off. Or if you're someone who's out and about all the time, you can make use of moments of found time to do reaccreditation or to do some of your other learning. And as you can see here, responsive design means that the courses on the smaller devices can be just as interactive and engaging as on the larger devices. They've not just been shrunk down, they've actually been reworked so that they're just as interactive on the smartphones. Wading through relevant material. Some things are very important, but only for people in specific job roles. Too many compliance courses are one size fits all. Far better to take the approach that we've taken with a number of organisations and build role filters into the compliance courses so that people take only those areas that are actually relevant to what they need to know for their job. Okay, dense, heavy or slow narrator-driven courses. We don't make courses like that, but too many compliance courses are narrator-driven, which means the learner has to wait for the narrator to say something they could have read far more quickly. And that's a turn-off, as is a very dense, text-heavy course when they might as well be reading a book. So obviously the solution to this is to make it visual, make it engaging, to use multimedia, and to make it fun. We worked recently with Sky to make a course about how European legislation has changed the way the underlying technology of websites work. Not perhaps the most immediately fascinating of subject areas, but let's take a look. So as you can see here, the little creature there is going to find out what happens if you delete all your cookies. Okay, so it no longer knows who he is, and it's lost everything in his shopping basket. So that very quickly tells you that cookies have a useful purpose. And here again, we have a very visual explanation of how websites communicate using cookies. So that dry subject matter really comes to life. It's engaging and it's fun. Another course we made for Unilever was for accountancy, slightly above my head.
Temporary accounting differences is recognised except where it arises as a result of goodwill, recognised on a share deal acquisition, or on the initial...
Okay, so you get the idea. Again, using visuals, using multimedia, using video can help really bring that content to life. So the fifth and final learner turn-off is perhaps the most dangerous. Clients sometimes say to me that they need to raise awareness of an issue, and this is very dangerous for two reasons. It can lead to a very long and boring course because it's very hard to say specifically whether you need to be aware of any one piece of information. And it could also get you sued. I'll come back to how it might get you sued in a moment. So the solution to avoiding long, boring courses is to define clear goals. As we said, compliance training is all about behaviour. So you need to think about what you want people to do as a result of taking your training. How do you want them to behave differently after they've done the training? How will you know that they're doing it? How is the training aligned to performance? This is something that Kathy Moore's written quite a lot about with her action mapping, and Roger Major was talking about it back in the 70s. It's really important to align your training to performance objectives and to know how you'll know it's been successful. And if you're wondering how creating boring compliance training might get you sued, it's not the compliance training police. In fact, in 2010, the US Justice Department found a company in breach of their anti-bribery legislation, and they said that the training could actually be considered to have enabled the criminal behaviour because it presented a possible defence in court. So they hadn't actually updated their processes, they just created training. So if there weren't many other very good reasons for aligning your training with your processes and performance objectives, that is surely one. And the other thing is that then allows you to offer practical practice opportunities. Lots of people know the legislation, but they may feel unsure of how to put it into practice in different situations. And these types of simulation-based courses can let you do just that. Let's take a look at one we made for the Army on interviewing new recruits. To start with, learners get to see the ideal situation. So this guy is modelling the correct behaviour.
Good afternoon, can I help?
Hiya, yeah. I'm just looking for some information on possibly joining the Army.
Right, is it for yourself or someone else?
It's for me, actually, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So how much time do you have just now?
So this goes on as he goes through all the things that you must ask someone on their initial visit. And now we're going to observe a much less appropriate couple of interviewees. And I have a button up here in a second, which I can press to intervene at any time I think I need to.
Hey, now we know who ate all the pies.
Okay, so that wasn't great. So I've intervened, and now I'm being asked a question on why I've intervened and what my thinking was. And this course goes on to put people in a situation where they themselves interview a potential new recruit, and they need to decide what to say to them. So we've had a look at 5 learner turn-offs. So 5 things you can do to avoid boring your learners or turning them off. Use role filters to make sure people take courses which are relevant to their job roles. Use diagnostics, so when people are reaccrediting, they only take what they need to know. Use engaging visuals, animation, and media to help learners engage with the subject matter. Consider multi-device delivery to put learners in control of when and where they learn. And align your course to performance objectives and offer practice opportunities that allow people to explore the area. So that was addressing ability. Motivation is a bit of a tougher nut to crack, but there are ways that learning technologies can help. The first of these is to harness the power of storytelling. There was a mining company a few years ago that were having real problems with their health and safety training until they got in some ex-miners to talk to the current miners about accidents and near misses they had personally experienced. And after that health and safety training, the number of reported incidents went down considerably. Epic worked with the BBC a couple of years ago, and we interviewed very experienced programme makers about the decision-making process they underwent when deciding how to report on wars, what to show and what not, at what times, and also how to make documentaries about ongoing political events and wars. These are all things that require, that are guided by compliance, but require a very difficult decision-making process. And they were extremely popular with the audience, because they could relate to these real-life decision-making stories. And the other thing you can do to motivate learners is to harness the power of games. So this guy here isn't a games designer. He's UK psychologist Richard Wiseman. And he wrote a very interesting book in 2012, which called Rip It Up, which outlines the hypothesis that if you can get people to behave as if they believe something, they'll actually come to believe it. So a very good example of this is the seatbelt law, which was brought in the 80s. When people were canvassed just before it came in, most people said they didn't think wearing seatbelts was particularly important. When they were canvassed just after the law came in, and as good citizens, they'd all been putting their seatbelts on every day, they said, yes, it was very important. It was absolutely the right thing to do. So this is very interesting because it rather turns things on its head. Instead of reaching out to hearts and minds to get people to do the behaviour you're looking for, if you actually get people to do the behaviour, it will probably change what they think about it. Now, what does that have to do with games? Well, there's another body of research which suggests that if you do things, perform actions in a virtual world, it will have the same psychological effect as doing it in the real world. So with this recycling game here, learners score points by putting trash into the correct bin. So essentially, as well as learning which bin is appropriate for which type of rubbish, they're also constantly performing a task that we actually want them to do in the real world. So the more often that they do this, the more important they're likely to think recycling correctly is, and the more likely they are, after playing this casual game, to actually recycle in the workplace. Epic's worked with a number of companies to create learning games on subjects as diverse as management training, health and safety, and vehicle mechanics. And let's just take a look at one of those. So in this game, you have to explore this virtual workspace and find health and safety errors. And then, as you can see here, I'm now asked to answer a question on why I think it's an issue. And I'm going to get this question wrong. And as you can see, that's popped up now. I didn't get that question right. So this was a very good match for the young military guys who were taking this training. They could really relate to this game-based approach. So triggers. Anyone who's ever unsuccessfully tried to diet or give up smoking will know that you can know how to do something in principle, and you can want to do it. But that doesn't always lead to you actually successfully doing it. And part of the reason for this is triggers in the environment. If you walk past a donut shop while you're trying to diet, that smell of donuts wafting out may trigger you to go in and buy one without thinking about it. These things in the environment trigger behaviours that perhaps you don't want to do, and the lack of triggers for going and buying an apple may lead you to not stick to your diet. So how can learning technologies help us with triggers? Well, one way they can do that is using QR or quick response codes to actually situate learning in environments. So, for example, one way of doing this is to attach QR codes to fire extinguishers and actually have people, as part of their training, go round and find all the fire extinguishers. Another use of QR codes would be perhaps when someone's operating dangerous machinery, to go and have a look at the operating instructions on that machine, on your mobile device, before you start using it. And as well as situating triggers in space, we can also situate them in time. There's a fascinating psychological experiment back in 1973 when seminary students, people training to be priests, were told that they were running late for a very important talk on the subject of the Good Samaritan. And in their haste to reach this talk, large percentage of them raced straight past an artfully positioned sick and distressed person in the road. So they were so focused on their goal and they were in so much of a hurry that they forgot the bigger picture and that they didn't look around them. Now, mobile technology can help us remember the bigger picture by taking on some of the ethos of the quantified self movement. Those people who are tracking their behaviours are using apps to send them reminders if they're trying to lose weight, reminders to go to the gym. We can also send reminders to learners. So, for example, you could send them a reminder, do you know where your nearest fire exit is, on a monthly basis? Where you are now, do you know where it is? Or if you know they're about to book a hotel, perhaps you send them a reminder of the anti-bribery policy. You don't know who they're booking it for. So triggers can help people focus on the bigger picture and not too much on their immediate goals. So in summary, the three key components of behaviour are ability, motivation, and triggers. In terms of addressing ability and skills gaps, it's essential to define clear goals, employ diagnostics and role filters to make sure that the learning experience feels personalised and tailored, use engaging visuals and media to help things come to life, and free learners up to learn when and where they want using multi-device design. Address motivation with persuasive techniques such as engaging visuals, storytelling, and games. And use mobile devices to build triggers into the workplace, for example, on fire extinguishers. Okay, so that's the end of the talk. Thank you very much for coming.